we're going to be talking today about how to radiate in a noisy market. And I think the buzz these days is always about how do you stand out from the crowd? How do you be yourself and be authentic, but still do things differently that's unique, that gets a lot of attention out of all the noise that's happening on media these days.
Okay.
Like be yourself is the advice that a lot of people are hearing. We're hearing a lot of these days. And yeah, you teach something called the personal power paradigm.
Yeah.
And I like that. It's like triple P or something.
Yeah, the personal power paradigm, just to make it nice and alliterated for us.
Yes, the personal power paradigm. And it talks about working or maximizing what you already have. Joe,
Yeah.
Share a little bit about that to our viewers, especially those who hear that advice of being yourself and is still too general to be able to attach to. And maybe they're looking for something that's a little bit more specific on how to stand out from the crowd.
Totally, Jess. I love that. And you're so right. We hear all the time, be yourself, be authentic. And you're like, well, I am myself all the time. I don't really know how that's going to change. And so there's a couple of things that I like to talk about with my clients, with my audience, that really helps with this. So the personal power paradigm is just a simple way of saying, hey, let's take a look at all of your experience that you already have, all of your expertise. So we're looking at all the jobs you've done up until now, all the sort of weird and wonderful scenarios you've been in your career, your expertise and your training and your professional stuff. Then we also look at the way that you work, so your approach. How do you do stuff? Do you have a certain way of doing what you do? Because everyone is different. In a crowded market, you might all be, for example, there might be 5 yoga teachers, but everyone will have a different approach. Everyone has a different personality. Everyone has different set of expertise and experience. So we look at the expertise, the experience, the approach, and your personality. And, what I love to get people to do is to just sort of brainstorm on each of those 4 points. Because, when you realize that actually, for example, for me, my first career was graphic design. So that's part of my experience and it's part of my approach. And I've had a portfolio career as a writer, sort of travel writer and a designer and teacher and all that kind of stuff. So the way that I work is a combination of all of these things brought together. So, and in the same way, Jess, you bring your TV career and your experience of live television to what you do now. And so if you combine a snapshot of all those things, then you start to see, oh, hang on a minute, I can see where what I already do makes me different, right? So when you sort of put together, right, okay, so for example, in my case, my first career was graphic design. And then when I went self-employed 10 years ago, I had a portfolio selection of stuff that was around copywriting, design and teaching. But the thread between it all was creative thinking. And I bring my experience of all of that stuff into content creation. So for each of you guys out there, think about your experience, your expertise, your approach, and your personality. Brainstorm on those, and that gives you, the baseline of your authenticity. And we'll talk about the next stage of that in just a moment. So yeah, it's a mixture.
I really love that because you're really talking about first of all, finding your unique selling position, right? That seems to be a theme of what you're talking about, and finding how you're different and being honest about yourself and who you are and how you can contribute in a way that is in fact unique and that can, in this case, radiate or stand out in a busy market. Like you use the example of yoga instructors. There's so many of them, right? There's so many yoga instructors, fitness or whatnot, or even markets that are saturated, like fitness, like finance.
Any market, I'd say. So, even for example, if you're like a cafe, right, and you just opened up your cafe, well, maybe your cafe is different from the one down the road because you love to have events in yours and your background is, I don't know, art. And you have like amazing art pieces on the wall and you have like organic goods and locally produced stuff. Your approach will be different from everyone else's. And it's about articulating those things, because in any marketplace that is really crowded, we need to find a way to stand out. And I've got, sort of ways to stand out more, which we can talk about in a minute. But once you get a handle of that yourself as well, once you can get under the skin of what it is that makes you different and what your what your piece of brilliance is, then that then informs every single piece of your communication, every single piece of your talking points online, offline, every networking event, every social media update, every bio that you write, every blog post, because you feel like super confident. You're like, this is what I do, and this is who I do it for, and this is why I'm different. And the confidence that I always see with people who nail that is massive.
And how would you suggest, if you could give them one takeaway on how to nail that, what would that be?
I would say to brainstorm on those 4 things. So I would set your timer for 10 minutes and sit down and go, right, what is all the experience that I bring? What is my expertise? What is my approach? And then jam on your personality. And I mean all the quirks, from like your sense of humor, your almond butter like addiction like me, or your unicorn hair, or whatever it is, all of your quirks that make you you. Just brainstorm those things and you'll start to see a picture of how you roll, and it will make you feel like, I've got this. I can see where my edge is.
I love that. I was talking to someone the other day about little quirks to pay attention to when you are even in any type of content. We were specifically talking about video content, but I imagine this works just as well as written content, that you can plant these tiny idiosyncrasies of yourself, like for instance your almond butter addiction, and we don't spend a lot of time on it, but it's just a tiny plug in there, and that people begin to identify with you and relate to you with these fun little quirky.
Totally. And all of that stuff comes from starting with your brainstorm, which for me is where creative thinking comes into this. So if you spend some time just allowing your brain to riff on all the things that make you you, so and I like to sort of pull out those bits of my personality and to show my audience how to do the same, because it really helps people sort of magnetize to you. So I talk about my kitchen karaoke, which I do to kind of raise my vibe at home sometimes. And, I'll talk about, my love of like stadium rock, or the fact that, that I'm a big gin fan, or like a coffee snob and stuff like that. And people will get to see these pieces. My hands look really big when I do that close to the screen. Sorry. People get to see your personality in a way that they are like, I get her vibe. And the best thing is they either love you or they hate you. And it will completely repel and attract the right people. So the people who want to know you and will therefore love the vibe of your content and of your programs and of the way that you work will be like, I want to know more. And the people who are like, I want nothing to do with her, then fine, that's equally cool, because we've then divided the market into the ones who need us and the ones who aren't right.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love the concept of, yes, you got to weed out those people that you're just not a fit for. And I think there's a huge growth in understanding that that's actually a good thing. You don't have to be afraid of people just not gelling with your style, that it's totally fine and they're actually doing you a favor. And it's not necessarily meant as a negative aspect. It's just there's a sea of people, there's a sea of content to pay attention to. And you want to get to the people that it's exactly right for you and you're exactly right for them.
And the best bit as well about really amping up your personal brand in this way is that you are designing for your own market. So you are creating that market who are your peeps. So the Jess peeps are loving you for who you are, and the Joe peeps are loving me for who I am, and they love your mug, they love everything about you, right? And everything, and so by creating content that for me is, I think, where being truly authentic is. I think, well, I know that people get really bamboozled by what being authentic is. And a lot of it, I think, comes from when you're starting out in business. You are trying on different ways of being. You're seeing how everyone else is communicating and you're like, well, should I be a bit like that? And I know I've done it in the past. You're kind of trying on different sort of buzzwords and different kind of lingo, and until you develop your own lexicon and your own set of power words and you're confident in that, you're kind of not really speaking to anyone because you haven't sat down and said, hang on a minute, right, I'm already me, right? I'm awesome. I've had 40 years experience of being me. I can bring all the Jonas to what I do with work, right? And all of you guys can do the same. You know, you've had your whole life experience of being you. And so all you're doing is bringing all of that life experience and so far, all of those personality traits, all of that experience, whether it's from your, you know, days working like in a shop, or maybe you were like in a completely different industry, whatever you've done, you bring that to what you do now, because you'll have stories from it, you'll have, you know, perspectives from it, you'll have, you know, language from it, and all that stuff makes you so unique. To amp that up.
Yeah, I love that, because you're talking about having all of that knowledge there and combining it. And it's really fun because you're really talking about leaning into being yourself.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting, because there is this paradigm that happens. And that's why I'm glad you choose the word of paradigm, because it's the exact opposite at first of what it initially feels like you should do or you want to do. You want to guard that, or you want to control it a little bit more, or you want to give this kind of persona. And some things are just better when you let it naturally happen. A great example is how my camera keeps freezing in my first live video show. And of course, it never freezes. I keep pausing like this, like maybe it'll start like this. But no, it's going to be like,
it's all fine. And you know, that's part of it, because if we were people who were freaked out by this stuff, we'd be a very different shape. But we're like, it's cool, this is like real life, you know?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Because really, when you get down to it, the bottom line is we're dedicated to producing great content. I want to constantly give value to my listeners and my followers. Now, if that means my face has to freeze or whatnot, that's fine, but I'm still going to roll with it, because at the end of the day, I know that my people are not staring at my hair or staring at my image or even the things in the background here, but they are listening to the value that I can give them.
And you know what, I've done live streams before where I felt really inspired to kind of jump on and share a message, and sometimes it's an emotional one, and sometimes it's a, you know, sort of personal one. And I've often jumped on even like, you know, sort of post yoga class or post run, and I'm all sweaty and you know, but it's the message that comes from the heart. Now, I'm not saying that you should never make an effort and show up. Of course you should, but there are times when sitting behind the, like, all the gloss and the stuff is actually really healthy for people as well, to like understand that, you know, we're all human, we're all normal, and especially, you know, for kind of online entrepreneurs maybe who are existing often in our own space, it's easy to compare ourselves all the time to the glossy image, and everyone has it perfectly. No, real life happens. And I love that, you know, that viral video from last week where the guy from BBC News had his kids walk in, and I just loved it, because we've all been in that situation, and bless those kids. I love how the little girl dances in, and like, yeah, absolutely, that is so totally real life. It happens to any of us.
Yeah, how have we not talked about that? Because it's an awesome example. This guy, you can tell he's like dying inside. And I think there's a couple of things that I love about that video, but the baby, to me, the little girl comes in, but then the baby with the water busts through the door, like, finally. So my kids.
It's like on the little roller thing, and I loved it. And I know some people felt a little bit like, oh, you know, he should have picked them up and put him on, you know, and put the kids on his lap and carried on. And I know there have been instances where I have done that, you know, on a live stream. But I think the poor guy, bless him, I don't think he was trying to shun his kids. I think he was reacting to a live moment on like massive, you know, sort of national television, international, global television. And I think any of us could react in a way that's like, oh my God. But, you know, he went to the nation's hearts, right? We were all like, dude, we understand. We've so been there. And, you know, that's real life.
Yeah, that's exactly how it goes. And I feel like he handled it exactly as I would expect him to. He's in a very high profile situation, and it's a serious context. It's not like it's just live stuff like we're talking about. We're talking about really heavy dialogue here. So I I think no matter what you do, no matter how you handle it, you're going to have people who are going to suggest or say, you should have done it differently. So you just got to do what comes natural to you to smooth it over. The worst thing you could do is have dead air. Obviously, he didn't do that. He didn't like lose his composure, and it was just a short span of time and moved on. But when I watch it now, I'm like, oh, that had to be very stressful in the moment, but it probably did him a bit of a favor because now he's this internet sensation.
Yes.
So I don't think sensation would be the thing that he was originally looking for. Viral that he is, because I see that video everywhere now.
I know, bless them. It's amazing. But yeah, the little one on the rollers coming in is just the best part of that. I loved it.
Ridiculous, yes. So I want to share, Bob says, who's the brand? We are. So makes sense to build trust and rapport with appropriate self-disclosure and quirks that makes us stand out. Yes, Bob, that's a great way to sum up what Joe was talking about. And I love that. Yes, we are the brand, and whatever we put into it is what society is going to see, right?
And here's the thing, the reason we want to be exactly as we are, and to kind of, sort of tune up some bits of that, which we'll talk about in a minute, but is so that when people work with us or they, kind of hop on a call or whatever it is, the first point of contact with us one-to-one is as you would expect, so that I'm not kind of like singing karaoke, one day, then you sort of ring me up to have a, sort of client call and I'm really straight and serious and in a suit, and they're like, oh, that's not what I was expecting. You want to be congruent, and the easiest way to do that is to show up exactly as you are. But here's the twist, Jessica. We're going to talk about alter egos.
Yes. Thank you. That's a great segue.
Thanks.
My segue transition. We also promised to talk about zagging while everyone is zigging, right? Yes, zigging and zagging. So you see a lot of people going one way and you want to be just slightly different. And Joe, you talk about taking on this alter ego, and you speak about that. You've actually been speaking about that a lot lately. I'm wondering, is this where we're actually at now, that now all of these entrepreneurs and online people, we're supposed to take on these personas like these pop stars have been doing?
Right. To be clear, this is something that I was kind of working with myself like years ago when I last had a proper job, Jess, when I was a sort of graphic designer.
Which you last had a proper job.
Proper job in the UK when I was a graphic designer. And so I had this alter ego, and, she was Joanne, right? So I'm Joe, right? And I would send Joanne into the meetings with new clients and for briefings and stuff because I trusted Joanne to get the job done. All that meant for me was that it was like the more confident version of myself. And we all have a really confident part of ourselves that we can tap on, right? That we can sort of access. And I've been doing this for some time and kind of, making the most confident parts of yourself kind of louder, if you like, both in your own experience and in the way that you communicate online. And it's actually when I listened to a podcast with Todd Herman and Tony Robbins recently, where Todd Herman's talking about this as well. And I'm like, I hadn't realized this was actually like a psychological thing. I just had my kind of range of kind of alter egos that I was using. And he talks about it. So, really hat tip here to Todd Herman as well, because he talks about how, which one is the alter ego? Is it Superman or Clark Kent? And actually it's Clark Kent, because he's always Superman, right? He is always able to kind of show up like that. And all of us have a superpowered part of ourselves. So it might be that you're really confident in the gym, or you're really confident on the PTA, or you're, whatever it is that for you can rock it in your zone of genius, and you can bring that part of you to your business. And what I love about that as well is that there are things you can do to kind of anchor that part of your personality while you're showing up for your business. And, sort of Todd Herman talks about the fact that, he has his, his sort of glasses like a really part of his brand, but they're also really part of his anchor to sort of tap into the really confident Todd Herman, right? And because we all wear different hats, in our lives and throughout the day. So we're making the transition between being mum on the school run with one contact lens, like you were this morning, or like entrepreneur or partner, friend, you know, daughter, sister, whatever. We're making those different sort of transitions all the time. And we bring something different to each of those relationships. And to anchor ourselves in the way that we show up in our business personality, it can really help to have a thing, right? So whether it's that you always wear your dangly earring on an interview, or that you like to have a certain perfume, you know, when you show up for things, or that you have your glasses or a certain outfit or a lipstick or whatever it is, that can kind of help you connect with that, you know, part of you. So for, you know, for example, when I was having meetings as Joanne, I would have like, you know, my heels and a bright red lip and certain things that would make me feel like, yeah, you know, I got this. And so now when I show up for, you know, for sort of business things now, whether it's a call or like a webinar, I have my Jo Malone perfume. I kind of usually have like, you know, some kind of earrings on, or like, you know, a big statement piece of necklace. And that just kind of helps me feel like, yeah, I'm here, I'm showing up. And it might be different things, you know, for each of you. And it's anchoring yourself in the confident part of you. And it also just reminds you that you have a confidence somewhere in your experience and in your skills that you can really tap into and amp up as you talk about yourself. And it's not about being false or about saying, hey, I'm totally superhuman, I've created a whole random personality that's nothing to do with me. It's about kind of, you know, really tapping into your superhero, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that, because I related that to alter egos and pop stars. Like I'm thinking of like Beyonce and Sasha Fierce or whatnot, and you're talking about superheroes. So I guess that alter persona can be whatever you want it to be. But yes, you actually answered my question. My follow-up was going to be what you currently use to amp yourself up. But it sounds like you have the earring thing going on.
I have an earring thing or like a big necklace, and I always have my Jo Malone perfume. So Blackberry Bay is my, like, I'm showing up as me in my business. It's like a kind of scent which really connects me with my power. But that works for me. And, you know, for Todd Herman, that's his glasses. For other people, it might be a different thing. And I love to kind of ask my clients and my audience what it is that they have that can really connect them with their superhero alter ego. And the answers are always really interesting. So if anyone listening has an alter ego confident part, I'd love to hear what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of fun, because I think for me sometimes it's my purple hair, but I guess I have that all the time. But I think also being a mom, it can really adjust. So yeah, I think that would be it. It would be a bright lipstick, something like that. Sometimes I wear heels for these shoots, even though, you know, my feet aren't in the picture, and even though I might be wearing leggings or not.
I mean, who knows? We can't possibly tell. That's the thing, right? And, you know, certainly for me, my hair's been a lot of very bright colours this year. And that was really part of my thing as well. And it kind of feels very odd for me to have brown hair right now. I feel very un-unicorny. But that was a big part of it as well. It's like, yeah, I've got like, you know, colour, and I feel really radiant. And, you know, that's part of radiating as well, is, you know, sometimes something like that can really change the way that you behave, you know, the way that you hold yourself, the way that you interact. So I'm sure that, you know, sort of live TV Jess is really different from school run Jess, you know, for example.
Absolutely. Yes. And I love how you sum these up, the tips that you've given us today. I know we have to wrap it up soon. This has been such a great time, but I think some great takeaways, some action items for those watching are the first thing that you can do is write down those 4 things that Joe talked about, brainstorming, right? And then pick some things that allow you to stand out, that some things that are even for you, that allows you to bring something in internally that just fires you up and gives you that expedited boost of confidence. Did I throw that out there pretty good, Joe?
You did. I love it. I love how you threw that down.
Great. So everyone, thanks for tuning in. Joe, it was so great to have you today. Joe, can you tell everyone where we can find you?
Absolutely. If you go to jogifford.co, you will find access to my Facebook group. You'll find all about me over there. So, you know, come and say hi.
Yes, I love it so much, and it's been such a pleasure to talk with you today. Even amongst the tech stuff, I got my plug, And next time we talk, you should show up with yours, and we're going to do a segment called A Cup of Joe. It's
totally. I'm loving it.
happening. And yes, so this is very exciting and a classic example of getting a lot of great content out to you guys, as well as even amongst the tech stuff. Because at the end of the day, the tech stuff is pretty much a small thing as long as you can get that content out there. So be on the lookout. I'll be putting out a new schedule soon on Jess Live as we experiment and tweak a little bit. And I call my local internet provider. We'll go from there. Thanks so much, and we'll
Thank you, Ellen.
Bye, Joe. Bye, everyone.